What's up, YouTube? It's the Heli guys again. Today, we're finally going to do our first unboxing and review. We had pre-ordered this guy about a month or so ago. I'm super excited to tear this box open and find out what's inside. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring the camera, some top-down view of this, and get this thing sorted out. So. Yeah. It's not cringy at all.
No, not cringy at all.
Alright, couldn't find a knife, didn't want to look, so we're opening it up with a battle axe. That's okay. Don't care about that. There you go, Daniel.
Free hat. I like the hat.
Yeah, I've already had one. We had ordered one of these things a while back, but the payment didn't quite go through, so we got 2 free hats.
Alright, show the camera. What is that?
And we got our
What's in the box?
450 milliamp hour smart battery for the helicopter. Oh, that's a lot smaller than I thought.
4-cell?
Yeah. A little bitty 4-cell battery. I think it's a lot smaller than I thought it would be. Hope that's in frame.
What connectors Blade putting on these now?
I think that's the XT.
Looks like an XT30, but there's something in the middle there.
Yeah, it's a little different than
No,
the
that
XT.
Won't fit an XT30.
Huh. Well, that's okay. We'll look at that in a minute. What I'm really excited about is this guy. The Blade Fusion 180. We've been waiting on this sucker for a month. I got your usual instruction book, pamphlet for free swag. Let's put that aside, we don't need that at the moment. Oh yeah, there she is.
Now what's that? They give us a spare set of blades?
Yeah, got a spare set of blades, little foam blade holder. A little bag of goodies, you got zip ties, a little screwdriver, some double stick and Velcro looks like. A little Allen key. Some spare stuff. Here's what we're all excited about. Oh, this thing's kind of heavy for what it is. Alright, so yeah. That was everything in the box. I'll change the camera angle back to us and we'll talk about it, I guess. Okay, we got the model set up in the radio. Now we're going to go ahead and do the bind. And the bind plug goes into this little chingaderas on the side of the Heli here. And then you're going to plug in the battery, throw your transmitter in bind mode, and it should do the thing. So when it is in bind mode, you're going to see these flashy lights, and then you're going to turn the transmitter on and put it into bind mode. And that light should go solid to indicate that it's done.
I don't know why your bind button doesn't seem to work, but there's another way to do this.
Yeah, just have to go in there and
Go
manually
down
do it.
to System Setup. Confirm that we're going to turn off the radio part of the radio. And down here there should be a bind option.
Binding. Let's see. Yep, there it is.
Alright.
And she's bound. So we'll pop the canopy on it.
Roll is working right. Pitch is working right. Tail is working right. Collective is working right.
Throttle hold appears to be working as well.
No, throttle hold is, yeah, throttle hold. What position did that manual tell you to put it in? Because if the normal mode was working, it should have bit me right there. But maybe we need to cycle power.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they
bind
did
plug is still
say
in.
To cycle power and remove
Yeah.
bind plug.
Cycle power, remove bind plug. Let me look at your, at what the manual told you to do for throttle holds. Because I have my own setup and it doesn't always match Horizon.
Okay.
Throttle curve, normal mode.
Okay. We got everything set up. Just gonna
Soft start, stop starting. Feels fairly squishy.
Yeah.
Like it's got quite a bit of expo in it.
Yeah, it's got 25% expo all around. That's what the manual called for.
I would take that out, especially considering what you're used to with the 150.
Yeah.
It makes it feel sluggish around the center. It does feel solid though.
What do you think?
See the tail bouncing a little bit.
5% expo?
I'd take it all the way out.
I'm used to something that's a little bit squishier.
Well, try it. I mean, it's your helicopter. It's obviously two tastes.
Yeah, it looks really stable though.
Yeah. See the tail kind of wandering around a little bit, little bounce.
Yeah.
You might be able to adjust the PIDs through the transmitter. That was still a new feature when I had my 180, and I don't think I ever had it working right. Like you had to upgrade the firmware on your radio and the helicopter.
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever really got that to where I understood it and liked it and seemed like it was working right.
Okay.
But they've worked on it. I'm betting you could adjust your tail gains through the transmitter.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it right off the bat aside from personal taste stuff.
Yeah. Oh, cool. I'm looking forward to flying this thing.
Alright, so on the price point, entry level, I mean, to get into both of these birds, they're not that dissimilar. But where you run into problems is parts cost. The commonly broken parts, like spindles and mains, are twice. This bird, you know, you get a pack of two, you get one. More or less, a lot of the parts, they end up costing about twice as much on this bird. And that really kind of, considering they cost the same to get into, that really makes a difference. And,
Now, when you say the same to get into, so this one, pre-order and everything, we got with the battery, we were just over $300. Now to get into an M2, an
the
M2
Explorer,
V2,
it's about $300 for the Explorer. Definitely recommend going with the Explorer on the M2.
right? And now the Explorer, it comes with two batteries, I
I think it
believe.
comes with one. My M1 came with one battery.
Okay, so it'll come with one battery at the price point, and you don't have to order an extra battery or a battery. You know, this one already comes with one.
And on the
With
subject
the Fusion,
of batteries,
we had to order the battery. It did not come with one.
yeah, and on the subject of batteries, XT30 normal balance plug. This one came with a smart battery that costs twice as much as a normal 4-cell 450. This one runs a 3-cell 650. Also, they cost about $15. These cost about $30. And I don't know what good, especially on small batteries that are, you burn through them, you get tons of flights, you kind of slack off, you don't care about them as much. They're obviously a safety hazard, they can start something on fire, But if you destroy one, it's not as bad as a larger battery. So on the smaller batteries, I can't see any argument for the smart technology to want to log the battery's performance over time. Maybe on a bigger battery, but on this little guy, not really.
Yeah,
I would go with the cheaper $15 Ford battery. And I get a bit of a premium because they're trying to sell them at brick and mortar hobby shops, but twice for everything really kind of hurts. Especially for if you're learning and you're going through parts.
And let's discuss the feature on these batteries that we found out with the Spectrum Smart batteries. They will go into an automatic discharge storage cycle on their own after a set amount of time.
Yeah, it's got a built-in battery management system. That's where some of the extra cost comes for. There's an extra board on this battery that will balance and storage charge your battery for you. If you don't have a smart charger, then you can't change those settings from what I understand. I've only done a very brief glance at the smart battery chargers, and I don't own one. I don't think I will own one. And I can't say how easy it is to change that stuff. And I love to tinker. I would like to look at battery logs, but twice the battery cost, I don't like it that much. Yeah. And it's proprietary. It's not open source. And that, in this day and age, you get all sorts of stuff, cool stuff open source.
Now, let's go on to build quality. Like, what do we think about
nothing wrong with
the nuts and bolts differences between? Now, it's going to cost roughly the same to get into either one of these birds, and we haven't done an extensive flight on the Fusion yet. We have flown the M2 plenty. Let's just go through build quality. What do we think?
There's nothing wrong with it.
Right
I'm not entirely opposed to plastic parts if they hold up, if they're made of a good blend of plastics that hold up well. They are definitely lighter, but they are definitely weaker. But I don't see anything wrong with the build quality. It strictly comes down to price of parts for me, and particularly the consumable parts like spindles and mains that if you tip it over, you might want to replace.
As well as availability. I mean, there's got to be parts availability. You don't want to be waiting on, putting your parts list on back order.
Well, for some people that's going to be positive, and some that's going to be a negative. There will be some folks who can walk into a store and buy parts for these. That's not us. We have two hobby shops that are relatively close to us. They're both good guys, but they focus on car stuff because that's what the local guys buy. We're a relative minority in the flying crowd, in the helicopter flying crowd, and the rate at which we order parts wouldn't support the local guys bringing in a whole lot of parts for us.
Yeah.
They make their money on cars, and I understand what they're doing. They're good guys, but they're not an option for us. They might bring the helicopter in if we ask them to. They definitely would if we asked them to. But as far as just walking in and buying parts, probably not for us. We live in a smaller town. We live in a county with a population of like 140,000 between three medium-sized towns, and our local hobby shops probably aren't going to have the parts on hand when we go in there. So we're ordering parts for this one or this one. If you live in a larger city that has a local hobby shop that carries helicopter parts, that might be a big difference for you on the 180. But for us, it isn't.
Oh, and I was totally wrong on the swash plate. The lower of the swash
Again,
is
I'm not
a
opposed to
composite
plastic parts.
Nor am I. I was just really surprised to see how thin they made this swash plate on the 180.
Yeah, I had the original 180, which is actually the size of what they call the 150 now. And the swash plate on that one was quite a bit looser, quite a bit sloppier. This one, it feels a lot tighter. There's not nearly so much slop in it as my original 180, what were they calling them back then, CFXs. But it's what they call the 150 size now.
Yeah.
I think they're actually going by blade size now, 150 millimeter blades. But
so
they've improved since then. I see some common parts. I think this aluminum upper and lower servo mount blocks, they look very similar. The servos look very similar, but they're Metal Gear rather than plastic, which absolutely, thank you.
Yeah.
The tail servo doesn't look like it's changed much. And some people like those. I haven't had horrible luck with them, but I've never tuned them with an engine or life, and they fly out of the box. And I think they fly okay out of the box.
What do we think about ease of setup with the
Wasn't
between the
bad.
instruction manual?
Jonas set it up, and he came pretty close to. We changed a couple things because he wasn't really familiar with how a governed speed control wants to see your curves on your radio.
I normally fly with a V curve on throttle, but that's a no-no for these birds. I didn't know that, so we changed that to a flat curve. That reminds me, this is going to be a 2 or 3 part video because we are going to do a video on getting it set up on Spectrum DX6E, and once we get it figured out, we're going to do a video on getting this thing to run on OpenTX as well, because I have a Radio Master TX16S now, so keep an eye out for that.
If you see the flat curves in the manual, it probably means it has a governor in the speed control, and it's expecting to see those percentages to give you the head speeds, and the flight controller may have been tuned for those head speeds, so you don't necessarily want to mess with that. Start out with what they've got, unless you really know what you're doing, and then you can play with it from there. Because why not? You know, you're not in it. It's not going to kill you. It might hurt, it might cut you, might hurt you, but you know, start out like that unless you know what you're doing.
Yeah. What do we think about the proprietary tech between, say, an OMP and like an Align and the
Well, they've all got their
Fusion?
own flight controllers. The OMP, it's very limited in what you can change, and it's done through watching blinks on the flight controller and which LEDs are lit up. And this one, I think you'll be able to program through the transmitter. We haven't gotten that far yet, but you should be able to change the gain on the cyclic and the tail.
You'll be able to do that through the forward programming that Spectrum has built in through the transmitter.
Yeah, when I had my original 180, they were just getting started with that. I think I got it working briefly. I had to upgrade the firmware in my transmitter, and I may have had to upgrade the firmware on the helicopter. And I think I had it working, but I never really played with it too much. And I really messed with my original 180. I tried to stretch it to a 205, and it did fly, but the tail blades were too small, and no matter what I did to the gains, I never could get the tail flying right. I did get the cyclic flying right, despite being way far from anything the factory ever intended. But the tail, it was just completely lacked authority. I was flying at a lower voltage, I was flying on 2 cells, and the teeny tiny little, I think 40 millimeter tail blades did not, or 30 millimeter tail blades.
Wow,
I'm a horrible judge of sizes, but they were too small to run 205s, and it still flew, and we had fun with it, but it never felt quite right with the smaller tail. Like, I think these tail blades look a little bigger. I might be able to put those on now, because that helicopter lives to this day, you know, as a kind of a failed project that never got quite flying right. I might put it back to stock, and we could compare the two.
Yeah, that would be really neat to do.
Yeah, I need a blade grip because I put a T-Rex head on it at 250, and I lost one of the grips along the way somewhere. So I need to get a blade grip, and then I could put it back to stock. I've got the original tail boom, torque shaft, everything. So
awesome. So first day's impressions, other than the proprietary tech that we had to navigate around.
Yeah, did we
with
show
the
them how
battery.
we navigated it with that adapter?
No, this would be a good chance to show them. So we had to.
This is how we charged it, not having a smart charger. We cut off at the speed control, added in an XT30, and we charged it as a normal battery unbalanced. You could feel a little bit of heat on this board. You could tell that it was balancing, but yeah, that was a pain. It wasn't necessary. Balancing is a thing that's been solved for a long time. There was no reason to mess with it.
Yeah, if they had supplied a normal balance port, we would have had no issues charging the battery. As we have chargers that can charge through the balance port or through the regular connector. So that was a little hiccup that we had to get over. We got over it. As you'll see, we got it programmed, we got it flying, hovering indoors, mind you. So yeah, it's exciting, and we're really looking forward to trying out the smart technology. I want to see personally how the safe recovery works on this. You know, outside with some altitude, get it in a funky position and just hit safe. Let's see how it recovers itself. Um, let's see how it flies. Does it fly big? Does it fly small? Um, and then we'll let Mikey ring it out and see how 3D capable it really is.
Yeah, one of the complaints I had about the original 180 was that the disc loading felt really high. We fly at mile high elevation roughly, and this one has a larger disc loading. It doesn't really feel a whole lot heavier. I think it will be an improvement over the original. So hopeful on that, and it feels pretty good flying indoors, but you can't really tell, unless you're like Nick Maxwell and really ringing it out in almost no space.
Yeah, we're not quite there yet, but we're trying every day. So yeah, Jonah, do the thing.
Alright, that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and let's keep this hobby alive.